Good evening, everybody. It is June 14th, Flag Day, also my wife's birthday. Happy birthday, Dr. Patricia. It's been a couple of weeks since we met last. I think the broadcast where I talked about where we were and the importance of where we were going and, the fact that there was opposition out there. I dealt with a lot. I was pretty passionate the last time we spoke, and it's because we are really so close to making this a reality. It's just, unbelievable. We've never been as close in the history of our organization as we are now. And that's scary. Honestly, it's hard to really identify and articulate my emotions, at this point, because anything could happen, that might make this turn negative. Now, I say turn negative. I mean, we've had 18 years of awareness and, positivity and support and endorsements and just an amazing amount of significant of feedback, that we're on the right path, that we're doing the right thing, that why hasn't this been done before? And we're behind you, go, go, go. I mean, I get that all the time. For every one negative, I literally, get 1,000 positives, but yet it still is a depressing journey. It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster that I can't explain. If any of you have, put your heart and soul and mind into one thing that really only you believe in, I mean, initially, and you don't know how it's going to be received or what kind of feedback you're going to get, and it's just your baby, and everything affects you. So we are in a place right now where we have never been before. I mean, we are really on the verge of the Honor and Remember flag becoming a national symbol of remembrance. It's just, it's one of those things where you don't want to burst the bubble and you don't want to jinx it or whatever it may be. But, I believe that this was a God-breathed effort from the beginning, and it's going to rise or fall, based on his wishes, I believe. So just being an obedient servant and doing what I feel is I'm directed, is the best way to, articulate this. And some really good things have happened, legislation wise. We are on the cusp. I mean, we are literally on the cusp. We've had a lot of positive, I don't want to say responses, but positive steps that are happening. We've crossed some hurdles. We've had opposition that's been shut down. If you can believe, anyone would oppose the national recognition of our military fallen and their families. I mean, who would be opposed to that? But there are reasons why. I articulated them last week, and everybody's got their opinion. I mean, people don't like the American flag. They're burning it in the streets. I mean, what topic do we agree on in America anyway? But I do know that of all the thousands of families that I have been able to meet and share and cry with and hear their stories, I know that the one thing that they are longing for and yearning for is remembrance. And that's wonderful. And, I get discouraged. I see, nonprofits out there that, may be getting more revenue, because of some of the things that they do, or they have better advertising. I don't know. We hardly advertise at all. And, but I know that the mission in the long run and what we are trying to do is to leave a legacy. This is a long-lasting, on infinity, into infinity, a legacy that is not going to die. We're leaving something that's going to last for generations. And it doesn't matter about who started it. It doesn't matter about the organization. What matters is that there will be a symbol out there that will be a standard for those families from the past and from the present, and those families that have yet to lose their loved ones, and will need to know that this nation remembers, or you as an individual remembers them, as you fly this flag. I mean, I don't know of any other organization, honestly, that is cohesively and collectively encompassing the entire body of the Gold Star community, or the fallen hero family community, whatever term you want to have, those that have died while serving or as a result of serving. I don't know any other initiative in America that actually touches the lives of every single one, every generation, every familial unit, every single one in America. And one day this will catch on. It might not be the sexiest thing out there, but it is something that literally touches, when seen, speaks that message to every family, who has lost a loved one in America. One of the things that has happened, along with positive movement in the legislation, is this weekend at the Poconos NASCAR racetrack, they unfurled that large 6,500-foot flag on the field. They had a number of Gold Star families there, a number of families who were attending. They were out on the field holding that flag. That's just an amazing thing. And I don't know if it got out on the airways or not, but I hope it did. I wasn't watching the beginning of the race, but that's where the attention needs to exponate, right? It needs to not just be on the field to the fans that are there, but it needs to be seen by the eyeballs across America, because those families watching need to be recognized as well. And so I don't know if you're going to watch this till the end or not. I started this whole video cast, if you will, with the idea that I would read my book out loud. I haven't been doing a lot of reading of the book. Honestly, I've gotten into topics and wanted to talk about those topics. But I thought I'd go back to reading again. And there's a couple things I wanted to say before I did. And one of them is we need funding. As an organization, we need funding. If you're out there and you've been following my initiative for the last almost 2 decades, and haven't contributed, I would ask, please, that you do. We have hundreds of flags on a waiting list for families. We have presented almost 6,000 flags. I think we're up to 5,800 flags to families. We get requests every single day for flags, but that is just one of the many things that we do in order to bring honor to these families, to continue, right? We have our 4 principles I've talked about: establish, educate, present, and comfort. And all of those things take funding. And we are in a really lean time right now. We could use the support. So I ask you, if you're watching, go to honorandremember.org, that you make a small donation, make a monthly donation, make $1 a month donation. Anything recurring would help us to be able to plan a budget and to make some of these things happen. And especially flags for families. It costs money to sponsor a flag for a family. We have a map out there in the website. If you go under, I think one of the drops downs is sponsor, you'll see a map of all the flags across America that are still waiting for sponsorship. Go out and sponsor a flag. Help us in any way that you can. And the other thing I just wanted to say is that I did an Audible version of this book. I don't know if I had mentioned that before, but I have read myself the entire book out loud with as much emotion as I could control. And it's out there, Tragedy to Tribute, on Audible. I think it's the only place out there that you can find it. And so I would ask that you go out, if you're not a reader, that you find it, and hopefully it blesses you if you just have it and keep it for posterity. Because when this mission comes to a conclusion, it won't ever come to a conclusion, but when it comes to a milestone, if you will, of the Honor and Remember flag becoming that national symbol, you may want to know that you were a part of that, and this will be a way to recognize that you are a part of this journey as well. So go out there and find it. So I'm going to read from the book. I'm going to keep these to 20 minutes if I can. You know, I've been told that 20 minutes is easier to share. And if you haven't already, like this channel, you know, our Honor and Remember YouTube channel. Like the channel. You know, I don't all know what that means or how that helps us, but I think a lot of likes, at least if you like it, it will inform you when I do a broadcast that a broadcast is coming up. So you can tell I'm all not all that technical. I'm trying a new audio scheme, so I'm hoping the audio is better, and you know, that's just the way it is, guys. Doing the best I can, and I'm not giving up. So I'm going to start reading from the book Tragedy to Tribute, chapter 4, called Unpacking Remembrance. And I'm going to read for about 10 minutes and then, you know, close it up. So I appreciate you guys who are with me. And the reason we don't get very far in the book is sometimes I stop and I talk about what happened and I embellish on it a little bit. So you have a better understanding of where I was, what my frame of mind is. So we'll see how this goes. I haven't read it out loud for a while. Chapter 4, Tragedy to Tribute, Unpacking Remembrance. This is not a book about faith, although I am a man with spiritual roots. This is simply how my story unfolds as I recall it, my reality. You may recall it different if you know me. God began to speak to me through this process in a small, quiet voice, comforting me, challenging me, and ultimately exhorting me to pursue the path I'm on. And the process I'm talking about is my grieving process. My conversations with God started just a week after Tony's death. While in the deepest throes of my grief, in the agony of asking the why and what if questions for which there are no answers, God said something very clear to me. He said, I know what it's like to lose a son, and I know how much it hurts because I lost my son too. But I want you to know that your son and my son are together with me in paradise. That struck me like a jolt. I was deeply moved. Immediately, I understood. My body relaxed, and I felt at peace for the first time since that dreaded knock came at the door. My grief was still strong for Tony, but now I had something tangible and comforting on which to cling. I would see my son again. The Lord reminded me that this life journey on earth is short, and dwelling on Tony's death would consume me to destruction. The Lord gave me instant assurance of eternity, and my thoughts turned to others who may not have had that hope to hold on to. I should focus more of my life helping families who are in pain. In helping others, I would continue to heal. I still had a long way to go, and really still do. Parents never stop grieving the loss of their children. One of the most important thoughts for me after my spiritual revelation was wondering how other fallen families were surviving. Since I lived in a military town, I started attending local military funerals whenever I heard of one. This was healing to me. I was able to channel my grief by meeting other hurting families to let them know I was also going through the pain. I could share that they weren't alone and that this terrible loss in their life is sufferable and survivable. After attending many funerals and ceremonies, I assumed that all families were meeting each other the same way, but found this was not the case. Whenever I asked, no one seemed to know each other. At that time, there existed no comprehensive service-related organizations or government agencies to research. So finding like-minded families in similar circumstances was difficult. Every branch of service operated independently. There was no Army Survivor Outreach or Navy Gold Star programs yet authorized. I was focused on my healing and wanted to talk to others who were grieving. So I began calling up the dads I had met and invited them to hang out. For nearly a year, I would bring about a dozen fathers together, just to have a Golden Corral buffet meal and share our hearts. We did this about once a month. It was incredibly rewarding and allowed us to form strong bonds that we still have to this day. Unfortunately, some of those dads have passed. As time continued, I connected with dozens of additional families at various events. Most of the families I met had lost their loved ones in the Middle East, but there were also many from past generations, mothers who lost their sons in Vietnam, children, now grown, who lost parents in World War II, and others who had spent decades trying to hold on to fleeting glimpses of the past. Every casualty type was represented: killed in action, medical, training accidents, and far too many suicides from the hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress. Every family member desperately wants their loved ones to be remembered. As I write this, estimating conservatively, I have met several thousand grieving families in the almost 20 years since Tony's death. In our conversations, I have asked these families what was important to them, what gave them the hope and strength to take another step. How did they cope with their loss? Not to my surprise, it wasn't gifts or benefits that they wanted. The same two desires would surface again and again over the years. First, to know that their loved one had not died in vain, and second, to know that their loved one would not be forgotten. I've said this over and over the years. Those are the two most important things to a family, because you can't reach them all with gifts. You can't reach them all with benefits. And some family members aren't even considered at all. And so many are left out from this concept of remembrance. These two concepts played over and over and began to resonate with my own feelings. In listening to the stories and sharing my own, I realized that no amount of money, resources, or physical things could ever replace the devastating emotional pain of the loss. How many times have you heard the benefits that were given to families, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that may come through insurance or paid out benefits, are spent very quickly and then they're gone, and then there's nothing. Although there is an easing of financial burden that comes from receiving death benefits, that immediate blessing quickly gives way to the reality that can't be anticipated. The reality that our loved ones were not coming home, ever. Not one of us wouldn't give everything we had for just a few minutes more with the one we loved. One of the greatest fears Gold Star families all face is that somehow our recollections will disappear and we will forget the sound of their voice or what they look like. No matter how painful, we pray these memories never fade. These memories are precious and rare, living a life plagued with emotional pain. A pain we cannot face and yet we cannot lose is bittersweet. You get that, right? We can't ever lose that. And so as more that we bring them up in our minds and the more we bring them to our consciousness and the more we remember their memories, the more pain it brings because they're not with us. But we can't ever lose that. It's a horrible place to be. Most families throughout the initial grieving period receiving gifts Most families throughout the initial grieving period received gifts from patriots across the country. For me, that was overwhelming. Often, when a package came in the mail, old wounds were made fresh. I have always been more comfortable when I am not on the receiving end of any attention. While I appreciated the gestures, I'd rather avoid the attention the gesture brings. I felt guilty that we would be sent something that I felt could have helped others. I tried to live an extremely private life and was not interested in the least in being personally acknowledged. Although each gift did provide moments of gratitude, knowing that others expressed their condolences. As each item arrived at our house, I found it to be special, and something in me felt empty or missing. I no longer wanted to be at the receiving end of these gifts. Instead, I wanted to do something special to touch others who are experiencing a similar loss. I wanted a gift to give myself. The period of receiving gifts is not long lasting. It starts as an initial flood, tapers off for a few months, and then spirals quickly to an occasional trickle. People moved on, and they expected you to do so as well. It struck me hard that I wanted to do something lasting, to give something not just one time, but something ongoing that would somehow reach every family. I felt the need to touch every generation from the past, present, and those to come, and something more than pulling a heartstring with a headline story that quickly fades from memory. Maybe I could find a way to make sure families knew their fallen hero would never be forgotten. But how? Gosh, guys, I almost have to stop there. I hate to do that to you. But it took me almost 60 hours to read this book out loud when I did the audio taping. And there's a lot here. If you guys want me to keep reading the book at some point, I would like to do that. But you know, each chapter could push me further, you know, into timeliness. But since I've already read this out loud, I just wanted to be able to, you know, bring some of it to you directly, and hear some of the commentary that I might have with it. But this is the start of how I was unpacking, how I was feeling, my grieving process, what I was going through, what I started to do to bring healing to myself, you know, my conversations with God. And so it led me to the creation of the flag. And I can read a little bit more from that chapter. There's a lot more out there that I would like to read and continue, because it's important that that you know really where my heart is. And guys, I just don't know if I can articulate any stronger than I have, you know, how important it is for me that every family in America be touched. Every family in America that has lost a loved one in the military while serving or as a result of serving, not to get caught up in the controversy, not to get caught up in whether or not people like the flag or don't like the flag, whether the colors are right or not right. I mean, go out and do your own research. The Honor Remember flag was born out of strategic symbolism, very specific, very meaningful, very pointed. And it was directed purposefully, you know, at the grief and to bring remembrance to the minds, the hearts and minds of these families, right? So my hope is that this flies for you. You can fly it, of course, but you have your Gold Star banners. Those are the family members that can fly Gold Star banners. You know, it's not for every family member. You know, there is a definition, you know, but we're not here to define it. You know, we're here to make sure that every family member is honored. But the way that's done is with the adoption of this flag, with seeing this flag everywhere. And if you've ever met anybody as passionate as I am about one particular thing, then you know that I'm sincere about what I believe. You know, I keep telling my wife that I would love to just, you know, stop. It's too hard. The burden is too great. I do feel like Sisyphus, you know, pushing a rock up the hill sometime, because people come and go, you know, like anyone. People get on with their lives, right? We all know it. People have come in and out of our lives because they've gone on with their lives. And I can't go on with my life. I can't go on beyond this mission, because the ultimate conclusion of this mission is that every family who is still with us, who exists on this planet, who has lost a loved one, sees this flag somewhere in their environment. That's my goal. And I can only do that with your help. We need to have an explosion of flags out there. An explosion of flags. That's why this establishing and adopting is so important. And it's not just establishing in the federal government. It's establishing in states, you know, 29 states already. We have a half a dozen also in the works that are just right on the verge. So, you know, we're going to be in our 30s. in the next 12 months. And so why? It's not a matter of us being able to say, oh yeah, well, we've got state adoptions. No, the idea is to get this flag up on flagpoles so that families see it, and that this idea, this cry of remembrance that they're feeling is satisfied, as best it can be. And I want you to know that I am here for you. I am here with you. I understand that grieving process. I understand what you as a grieving family are going through, regardless of what your circumstance was, regardless of what your casualty type is and what stigma that you may or may not think, is attributed. I just don't hold that to be, true in my heart. My whole goal is healing. It's remembrance. It's for bringing the community together and making sure that this small community, it really is a small community as in juxtaposition to the totality of our population, right? It's a small universe, that are very closely knit, in many ways, even though they might not know each other. We're instantaneously understand each other, right? So it is my hope that I can bring this awareness and this education to the population through the adoption of this flag, that people will see it, that they will know what it means, that they will realize that this is a way to communicate to the families out there and send that message of thanks when they don't know how else to communicate to the families. And so this is that messaging system. And I hope that you join with us. I hope that you continue to join with us. Share this video. Put up a flag. If you can help us financially, please do. I hate to use the word desperate, but in order for us to continue the awareness campaign that we're on, the flag's never going away. But for us to be able to shepherd it and to protect it and to move it forward and to get these flags in the hands of families, we need your help. So please consider that, honorandremember.org. And I hope you guys have a great night. God bless you. Appreciate you so much. And thanks again for listening to me rant and rave. Love you. Bye.